Pals, and welcome to another video. It's Kenna and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. I have a very cool video today for you that I hope you enjoy. It took me a long time to film. It is a tour of all of my houseplants. I have, I'd say right now, probably around 80 houseplants, maybe. The bulk of them are in this room, maybe about 50 of them are in this room right now. So this is where I spent the majority of my time, but they are kind of spread around my whole house. I really obviously enjoy my houseplants. I do have quite a few more plants that are outside, like, you know, tomato plants, things like that. And I also have a greenhouse that was recently gifted. It was a Christmas gift from my boyfriend, which I am very excited about, and probably will be moving some of my more particular plants outside. I'm looking at this Gloriosum right here because I hear they do really well in a greenhouse environment. But right now, all the plants that I have inside, indoors, are going to be in this video. I really hope you enjoy, and if there's any of the plants that I have, they're on your wish list, let me know down below which ones they are. And if there's any that I have that you also love, I'd also love to hear that. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. All right, so we're going to be starting off in this corner of the library / plant room. Here's just a quick little overview. So the first plant I can confidently say is one that may not like me all that much. This is my ZZ plant. They are known for being very easy care plants. And I honestly think I might water mine a little bit too much. He's been sitting down here on this shelf for a little bit and seems to be happier when I ignore him. So I'm ignoring him and letting him be. But yeah, there's this little guy. And then moving over here, we have my snake plant. It's a cylinder snake plant, so it's the cylindrica variety. I actually really do enjoy this one. I got it from a big box store and it was braided, which is what the discoloration here is. But he's super happy. He's given me all sorts of new spikes, and as with most of my snake plants, I just kind of ignore him and he does his thing and we just coexist. But he's a happy little guy. Up here we have my jungle boogie philodendron. I really love this plant. I love the dark green glossy leaves, and you know, he's a fairly consistent grower, usually has a new leaf coming out, as you can see right here. He's about to probably pop that one in the next week or so, but I love the shape of the leaves. I just think he's really cool. And then actually, if you look over here, this is my Philodendron Ring of Fire. I couldn't tell you which of these I love more. You know, it's like picking favorites between your kids, but I really love this plant. It is just gorgeous. Absolutely just breathtaking, beautiful leaves, and I love it so much. And we're gonna move back over here. This is my lemon lime Miranda. It has definitely seen better days. I let it get a little bit too dry, and then we also had a spider mites issue. So most of my Miranda and Calathea are just kind of angry with me right now. I did have to cut him pretty far back. I have some new leaves coming in, so hopefully soon he'll start filling out again, but for now, this is what we're working with. I also have this little Calathea orchid over here. I don't know how well you can see him inside the glass. Let me pop his little glass off there. But there we go. We have the cutest little orchid. I actually kidnapped him from one of the orchids I had over at my mom's, and he was just kind of growing off one of the little branches there, and I took him home and I popped him in here. He's actually given me a good amount of growth. I'm probably, though, going to move most of my orchids out into the greenhouse just because I think they'll be happier out there.
But for now, this guy's super cute. I love the little bell jar. I think it's adorable. And then moving up here, we have my Philodendron. It's gonna be the Burrowmarks Variegated. And this is one of the leaves that it came with. Absolutely beautiful. This one has less variegation, just a little bit up the top. This one's gonna come in, I think, fully variegated. So we've got a lot of variation going on here. He is still rooting in a little perlite mix, but as you can see, the roots are very happy, very healthy. Lots of little baby roots going in. There we go. Lots of little baby roots. So I'm just kind of leaving him be until he is, you know, good and settled, and then we'll, you know, plant him up. Moving over here, we have my first Anthurium. You guys might recognize him from my last video. I am still in love with this plant. I kind of can't get over how gorgeous it is. I'm still finding out its care needs, so I do know that it wants a little bit more moisture. Not to let it dry all the way because it will get a little bit droopy on me. But this new leaf that's coming in, I am so excited about. I've never had an Anthurium, so I've never seen, you know, the way that their leaves grow and expand, but I just think that they are the coolest thing, and I'm so excited to see what that new leaf does. Actually, back over here, sorry, Ring of Fire, we have another one of my orchids. This one really hasn't done much for me since I got him. I think it really needs to go out in the greenhouse, just because, you know, he has enough humidity, but I think it needs more light. And he's been doing fine. He's been maintaining, just not growing. So not all that exciting there. I bought a few of like the little baby orchids that were mixed off of Etsy. So I have a bunch of those. You'll see a few more in a minute. Actually, here's another one over here. This one, same deal. You know, you can see he's pretty small. He's just been maintaining himself, hasn't grown at all really since I've gotten him. Some of the roots that are up top look a little bit crispy, but he's fine down underneath as far as I can tell. He's a Tulumnia leopard, so if he ever blooms, he will be absolutely gorgeous, but I think he'll have a better chance of doing that out in the greenhouse. And then up here, we have my little CP Blue Pothos. There we go. I did go ahead and leave him back around. It came to me as a single cutting. So I've been trying to kind of see if I can get this plant to be a little bit bigger for me, a little bit more full. I did originally have 2 cuttings. One of them did not make it. So we're working with what we got here. There we go. We're working with what we got. And I don't know, I really like the leaves. I think they're quite pretty. I like the shape and the color of them. I just would like to have a little bit more of a full plant. Another one that I have up here is my Monstera Peru. I have it growing up a plank. Really, this plant just doesn't complain. I have, you know, not really touched him all that much since I've brought him home. I water it, you know, fairly regularly. I actually could probably use a water right now. But, you know, he's pretty happy. He likes this little spot. He gets light from this window, and that's about it. He just kind of sits up there. This is my Syngonium white butterfly. I do actually quite like this plant. It took a while for it to settle in. I don't know if that's a Syngonium thing or if it's just a Syngonium thing for me. My other Syngonium, which you'll see probably in a few minutes, does not love me all that much yet. This one took a while to settle in, lost a lot of leaves while it did so. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens, but so far so good on this one. He likes it up here again with that little bit of light from this window over here. And yeah, pretty happy guy. All right, and moving on to my Philodendron Mykins. This guy right here, I got significantly shorter a few months ago, and he has grown a pretty good bit for me. I apologize. The corgi thinks he needs to be very chatty today. Riddles. Hi. Yeah, that's the corgi. He's a corgi. Doesn't really have any watering requirements or anything. Hi, buds. But anyways, this is my curly lipstick plant. I had one of these a while ago when I was a little bit younger, and he definitely suffered some neglect. Riddles. Definitely suffered some neglect. So, you know, I kind of tried to make up for it by getting this one. And so far, so good, I would say, because we have a good amount of blooms. There we go. Ready to open up any day now, it looks like. Actually, looks like they are open, or at least some of them are. Not super exciting. I was kind of hoping for more bright colors, but I still, it's bloomed for me. I'm really happy when a plant blooms for me because it tells me that, they're doing okay. Let me see, I gotta pop this one back up there. There we go. All right, this is my Cissus Discolor. Not a whole lot to say about this one. I really like it, I will say. I just think that it's really gorgeous. The leaves are beautiful. The purple backs are just, very pretty to have around. But I did underwater this one. I'm not for sure if this one's particularly thirsty or if, the pot just, it wasn't wasn't big enough for it to grow in for very long. Either way, I will probably need to repot this one pretty soon. So you might see that in an upcoming plant chores video. And then over here we have my Hoya Carnosa compacta. I know this guy's pretty common. A lot of people really, have them, but I really like it. I think it's just really pretty. Definitely a unique growth structure. I kind of have it next to my lipstick plant on purpose, just because I think they're both, very similar, but really cool looking. The new leaves come in really dark purple. I don't think I have any brand new ones right now that I can show you, but I don't know. I think they're really cool. It's growing pretty well for me. He's been putting out, new growth pretty regularly. So I'm going to just, let that guy be happy where he is. And when he grows and we're good. This is my fiddle leaf fig. If you guys saw my first houseplants video, yeah, he got a little bit sunburnt. So all these like brown spots, it actually looks worse on camera, I think. But all the brown spots are from sunburn, kind of just crispy. He doesn't look particularly happy for most of his really big leaves, which is kind of a shame because I do really enjoy their really big green foliage. But he's been putting out some new leaves for me, so I do have a couple of new leaves here. And yeah, I don't know. I think he's just a really great staple houseplant. Takes up this corner very nicely. I have him kind of popped on a little shower stool here. But yeah, I quite like him, and I hope he continues to grow. He does like a lot of light, so this window seems to be doing well for him. This is the south-facing window here. I apologize for how backlit it is right here, but this is my Euphorbia. I believe it's commonly called an African milk tree. I really like this plant, actually. I kind of have a thing for cacti. I just think they're really gorgeous. There's been a lot of new growth. I recently did repot him. Probably about a month or two ago, maybe a little bit less than that, but he's given me tons of new growth since then. I think he really likes this window. I love just how structural these are. They're really cool looking, honestly. And I love that, there's a variation in height, and then he takes up this spot really nicely. He just looks very solid, and I don't know, I think he's a really great plant to have in my collection. I really would like to collect more Euphorbia, honestly. I have a few, you'll see in a moment, but I don't know, I really like this guy. And then next to him, again, I apologize for how backlit it is right now. This is my Philodendron Mexicanum. I really love these leaves, like they're just gorgeous. If we could focus, there we go. So I just love how shiny and glossy these leaves are. I have a thing for philodendron leaves when they have that dark green glossiness. Unfortunately, he did come in a little bit damaged. I believe he was overwatered actually before shipping. So when he came in, he had a lot of edema, a lot of blisters. He actually lost a whole leaf, which I was really disappointed by because it was over like in this area, kind of filled it out a little bit. And one of the leaves kind of came in, from shipping a little bit shredded too, which it happens. It's not every day that plants are going to come in perfectly. And like I said, he still has some gorgeous leaves. The newest leaf that came in my care would be this one. Absolutely beautiful. Has another like little plant, or has another little leaf coming in right here on the plant. So yeah, he's been fairly stable. I did end up repotting him because he was not happy in the pot that he came in. Like I said, I think he had maybe some root rot too. So it's a little bit of a rehab, but overall, really gorgeous plant. And this is my next plant right here. And I do apologize if you hear barking or just restless dogs in the background of this video. They are trying to help, and they think that they can do so by laying on top of me, and it's not really helpful to the filming process, I will say. But yes, this is my Philodendron Adibopoens. It was one of my wish list plants, actually, after seeing one of my favorite plant tubers at, what is it, De La Plants, Becca from De La Plants. And you know, she is just really cool. I love her personality and I love her collection. And she apparently got one of these. And I saw the video where she got it and I kind of fell in love with it. So I got this plant originally. It came from an Etsy seller. The leaves just kind of feel delicate. It's not, you know, it's a pretty sturdy plant, but I always worry. But this one in particular, this like long stem one, came from an Etsy seller. Came in not as described or expected is how I'm gonna say that. Came in a little bit damaged. It was supposed to be a full plant. It was not even rooted when I got it. So I was pretty upset, to be quite honest with you. But you know, I got it, you know, rooted. It's fine. It's just kind of looks a little bit weird in this pot, but I don't like having multiples of the same plant potted in different places. And I figured eventually, you know, one day they'll look nice together. So I had let them be and just kind of let them be, you know, a little bit awkward looking for now. The second one I actually got from a plant purge, and I think I was really lucky, honestly. I got a great deal. The girl who was selling it just kind of needed to get rid of it for, you know, money purposes. She was looking to save up some money. So I got this one. I got a dubia, which is actually out in the greenhouse, a Monstera dubia, and a couple of silver sword philodendrons to fill out the silver sword philodendron that one of my dogs decided to snack on. The dog is okay. The plant was not. So you live and you learn kind of situation for me. And I definitely don't leave plants that might be munched on the floor anymore. But yeah, suffice that to say, this plant is really gorgeous. One of my favorites. If you see here, these red backs, just such a unique philodendron. I love the long sword shaped leaves, the lance shaped leaves. This one kind of reverted back to more immature leaves, unfortunately, after I got it in, which is totally normal, you know, it will happen, but I'm waiting for it to put out some more mature leaves. This one is about to put out a new leaf sometime soon, which I am super excited about. I can't wait. So we're just kind of playing a waiting game with this one to see what it does. Next over here, and we get focus, there we go, is my Philodendron Fuzzy Petiole. It is actually a really steady grower, has been putting out new leaves pretty much non-stop since I got it. As you can see here, it gets its name from its super fuzzy petioles. They look kind of creepy and spider-like, honestly, but I really quite like them. I was convinced to get this plant because of Wild Fern, also on YouTube here. She is one of my favorite plant tubers. I was talking about all of her creepy plants, and the petioles on this one I think definitely qualify as a little bit creepy. Obviously my leaves are still pretty immature, pretty small. I think this is my biggest leaf right now, you know, maybe like half the size of my hands, but it's just really cool looking. I don't have a lot of heart leaf type shaped philodendrons other than, you know, the normal Brazil and heartleaf philodendrons, but most of my philodendrons have more of a lance shaped leaf, so, or like the unique like Florida Beauties type leaf. So I'm kind of excited to see what this one does. I know as it gets bigger, it kind of turns into more of a plush look. I have it on this pole here. Obviously this is a core pole. It's not going to root into this pole. I just have it there for support. And it seems to enjoy it, seems to appreciate it. As you can see here, no, maybe, good grief. Getting this thing to focus is driving me nuts today. Right there, a new leaf is coming in, so hopefully we'll have a new biggest leaf coming in pretty soon. Over here, I don't know if you can tell from my voice, this is one of my favorite plants in my entire collection. I am kind of just tongue-tied by this plant. It's so gorgeous. I love the variegation, love the coloring. You know, this almost half moon, like even a little bit more than half moon with the variegation leaf is just stunning. I could stare at it all day long. It is a cutting of a Philodendron Florida Beauty, and I have it rooting in this, mix of perlite here. Has a new leaf coming in, if we can see it. The new leaf does look like it is going to be variegated. From what I can tell, there is a little bit of striping on the stem. Not as much as this one has, but hopefully it'll be able to maintain its variegation as it grows. Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to put out some roots. And once it gets, pretty well established, maybe even starts, opening up that new leaf, which it will not do until it has some roots and is able to take in some nourishment and some fluid, some water. I've noticed that is a thing about philodendrons. If they don't have roots, or if they have a root problem, new leaves won't open. So if you have a philodendron that has, new leaves that are just still curled up and not wanting to open up, check the roots, see what's going on. Like I said, this one doesn't have any roots yet, so it's not going to open up until it does. But I've definitely had a few philodendrons that ended up, having to be repotted and checked out and see what's going on, that ended up having root rot, or, the death plugs, I think they call them, where they are basically being strangled by the little grow pods, and the roots can't grow. So if something like that's happening to you, definitely check out your plant, see what's going on. Over here, we have another Philodendron Burrowmarks variegated. I think I said before, but I got this from an Etsy seller. I just love the variegation. It's just, wow. I know these aren't like super expensive, but the variegation just gets me every time. I love that like multicolored green, the kind of minty, yellowy variegation. It's just beautiful. Oh, but I got this from the Etsy seller that sent me, instead of the one cutting I ordered, sent me 2 cuttings, which I am still shocked by, still very, very pleased with. And the 2 cuttings that they sent me actually ended up being huge. So I ended up chopping them up even further, which is why I have 2 separate things of 2 plants rooting. The roots of this one, I think this was the one that had less roots than the other. So the roots are probably taking a little bit longer to grow. It's kind of hard to see through the purple glass. I love rooting in these like really pretty glass containers because I use perlite and it just lets you see the roots really easily. I just think they're pretty. Next over here is one of the plants that was on my wish list for a while. This is a Philodendron Majestic. I love the leaves. They're just gorgeous. I love that kind of camo-y, silvery look. This one was actually a gift. It was a Christmas gift from one of my coworkers. We did Secret Santa and she did really good. Miranda, if you're watching, I still love this plant. She also made me this really cute pot with my Instagram handle on it, which coincidentally ended up being my YouTube handle as well. It does have a new leaf coming in, and I think it actually feels a little bit light, so it's probably gonna need some water. I have been waiting to repot it into this pot until it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more established, just because I don't want to put it in a pot that's too large for it. I am very, very careful when I do that because I do have a few that are potted in rather large pots for the root systems they have. But what sometimes can happen if you put a plant in a pot that it's not ready for and it's too small to actually adequately fill out, you can have root rot issues because those roots can only take up so much water, so much nutrition. And, this whole plant is this whole pot is being filled with water every time you water it. So, the roots can't spread out everywhere, can't take up all that water, so they just kind of sit. So I'm really careful when I have plants like that. I make sure that I only water them when the entire thing is dry. I have not yet had an issue, but they also grow a little bit slower, I found. I don't know if it's just me and maybe the pots are bigger, so it's hard to notice new growth, or if that really is the case, but it seems to me like they grow a little bit slower too. So I was just waiting for this one to get a little bit bigger, a little bit more established before I pop it in this super cute pot here. Next over here is just gorgeous plant. This is my Philodendron Gloriosum. This is my first crawling philodendron, so kind of have a learning curve here trying to figure out what to do with it. It came in this pot here. This is supposed to be the zebra variety, which has more defined and longer venation on the leaves. I do not have a regular version to show you, but you can kind of see how the veins run all the way to the ends of the leaves. These are the older leaves, so they are a little bit more, beat up, have a little bit more spots on them. The newest leaves I have facing towards the window, just because when you have a philodendron that is known for EFN, which this one is, the EFN is the extra floral nectaries, and they tend to kind of have liquid build up on the back. I don't think mine has any, which is good. I'm fine with that. But they tend to be known for their EFN production. And if you let a plant that has EFN built up on the backs sit in the sun, it can tend to burn. So I didn't want to burn the newest leaves, so I have them facing the window. That way, if there is any EFN production on them, it won't get direct light. The older leaves, like I said, they're a little bit more beat up. I'm not as precious about them. But the newer ones, I definitely want to keep pretty and pristine for as long as I can, so I have them facing over there. We do have a new growth point here, which has been there since I got it. Hasn't really done a whole lot. But that, again, is pretty normal. When you get a new plant, it takes some time for it to settle in, to get adjusted to the new humidity, new lighting, and new water. I mean, I got this plant from California. Obviously, you know, our water here in Florida is going to be different from the water in California, and I'm using a different fertilizer. There's a lot of changes that happen when you get in a new plant, especially from a different state. So I'm not all that fussed that it has not grown and put out new growth yet. It will when it's ready. For now, I'm just appreciating the beautiful leaves that I have, and I'm so excited to have it. I'm probably going to move it into a more trough style planter, and then I'm gonna have to find somewhere to put it because it will not fit on this little shelf anymore when I have, again, there's the dogs, but it won't fit on this shelf anymore when I have that larger, longer planter for it. So we'll see, it will get moved eventually. This is my Chlorophytum Fireflash, I believe is how you say that. This is actually a relative of the spider plant. Spider plants being super common, but this one does not grow quite like a spider plant. I mean, it has the center growth, which I love. I mean, just look how beautiful that orange is. I put it in this orange pot to kind of accentuate that too, because I just love that color. I think it is beautiful. But I haven't had, you know, it put out any pups, which is how it mainly reproduces. And I haven't obviously had it do the spider plant thing where it sends out a whole long kind of stem, then kind of grows little babies at the end of it, which I don't think it produces in that nature. I think it just does the pups. But so far, so good. It does, I've noticed, like a little bit more light, which is why it is in this window. I had it kind of up where I had the Syngonium before, and it was not happy up there. I know Chlorophytum in general do like a little bit more light, so I didn't want to lose this plant. It is really pretty. I apologize for the dogs, guys. Anyways, but it is really pretty, so I wanted to make sure that, you know, I could have it for as long as I could. Anyways, but this is one of the oldest leaves, so I will probably pluck that off pretty soon. It has done its work, and it's just kind of, you know, dragging the plant down a little bit now. But I really love this plant. I would recommend getting one if you don't have one. It, I think, is really unique. I don't have anything else in my collection, even remotely like it. So it's really cool to have, really cool to see, and just really beautiful and colorful. Hi, Corey. You wanted some attention. Luna, did you want attention too? Hi. Anyways, moving on. This is one of my Ficus Elasticas. I really love Ficus Alaska, honestly. This one was also hit by the spider mites, unfortunately, which is kind of sad. You know, it's a really pretty plant. It lost a couple of its bottom leaves. Guys, it lost a couple of its bottom leaves, so it's not maybe as full as it once was, but it is getting quite large. I'm actually really excited for it to get tree size. There is 3 different plants in here. I do have them kind of staked up. Ridley. I do have them kind of staked up. I water it maybe once every couple of weeks or so, and I've been, you know, very diligent about spraying it off since the great spider mite fiasco. And it puts out new leaves all the time. You know, I've heard people say that these don't like a whole lot of light, and I personally have to say I disagree. Mine like a lot of light. They definitely do not like to be in a dark corner somewhere, which is typical of ficus. But this is a south-facing window again, and this plant has been pushing out new growth like crazy. I mean, look at all of these new leaves. Every single you know, tree in here, every new plant in here has a new leaf coming out, and they're just getting bigger and bigger, and they're so pretty. This is the burgundy, yes, the burgundy version. I also have a Taneki. I would really like to get the ruby and even the Audrey. I think that, you know, they'd be really great additions. But like I said, I want the big ones. I want them to be like really nice 4 plants. I want this one to actually move down here eventually. Right now, it is a little bit too small and would look kind of weird, I think, down there. So we're waiting and we're growing, and I just really like this plant. This is my red Miranda. Again, got hit with spider mites. Still kind of disappointed about it. I think actually the spider mite treatment was rougher on this plant than the spider mites were. I actually had, I don't even know, like maybe half the plant turn yellow after treatment. And obviously there was the damage from the spider mites, and I, you know, plucked that off, but the yellowing leaves were after the spider mites. And I think it was because of the soap, the insecticidal soap that I used, which I guess fine. I would rather have no spider mites and damaged leaves than spider mites and damaged leaves, so fine. But that was kind of disappointing. So I'm waiting for this one to kind of bounce back, pop back. It being a Miranda, it's pretty thirsty, so I have to keep an eye on it if I want it to grow. Otherwise, the leaves just crisp up before they even come out. But just look at that leaf. It's so pretty. I think out of the two of them, I prefer the lemon lime, but I just really love the color of this one. And it always seems to be blooming, which explain that to me. This plant has been under so much stress, and I know that can sometimes be a trigger for plants to bloom, is them being under stress, but just how weird is that? That like, oh my goodness, can you focus? Kind of, okay, there we go. But just how weird is that, that would be what caused this plant to bloom? I don't know, but it always seems to be blooming. It has the cute little purple flowers. I quite like it. It seems to like the sun here. You know, one day it'll be a big bushy plant, hopefully. Not today though, unfortunately. Up here is another kind of sob story. This is my Hoya Australis Lisa. I got into getting some Hoyas maybe a few months ago. This was one of the first ones that I got. I really wanted it. I really wanted this Hoya Australis. Let me just pull it down. I wanted this plant, and it was not shipped to me in the best condition. The seller actually forgot it when shipping out my original order, which happens. I don't blame her at all. You know, I've had otherwise nothing but good experiences with this seller on Etsy. But this one, I think she forgot that I wanted an Australis Lisa and shipped out the original order. I got it, the Australis Lisa wasn't in there, and I asked her if she still had any because I really wanted the, you know, the Lisa. And she said, oh yeah, I have one, let me go ahead and send it. So she did. This actually had, sorry, Corgi has to go do his job barking at the yard. But this actually had one long vine when I got it. Literally, like the vine was probably the length of my entire arm, and it was just really weird. Like if you can see, this leaf here is pretty misshapen. Most of them were very misshapen, pretty wrinkly, just did not look right. I have a feeling this probably had flat mites when I got it. I have since treated it with sulfur, so I'm hoping that maybe it has cleared up, but it hasn't grown at all. I did chop it up and try to propagate it. You'll see the propagations here in a second. They are not doing well, unfortunately. So yeah, this plant kind of just disappointed me. I wanted a really pretty, you know, Hoya Australis Lisa, and I got this. Not to say I'm not grateful. I really do love it, and I'm hoping that one day it will become a really pretty plant. But for now, yeah, it's just not doing so hot, and I'm hoping that maybe the cuttings will root. It has been several months and they have not, but I'm hoping that maybe they'll root and I'll be able to plant them, you know, all together in a pot, and they'll be, you know, nice fuller plant. But for now, this is what we're working with. It's popped in the south window, so it gets nice bright light, not any direct light really, because it does have a little bit of an overhang blocking it outside, if you can see up where it usually is. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one, unfortunately. Okay, I am standing on a chair, which is not the least precarious position I put myself into today. So I'll try to make this fairly quick. This is my green spider plant, normal Chlorophytum spider plant. It has a little pup on the end of it. It's actually super cute. It had root rot, which don't even ask me how I got it. I don't know. I was watering it on a fairly regular schedule. It was always thirsty. Every single week it was parched. And I think maybe the roots died off. And then I watered it and then it got overwatered because there wasn't enough roots to take up all the water. I don't really know. Whatever the case was, it was not happy for a little while. So I did end up repotting it. And it looks so much happier now. Usually it lives in a north window. That also might be part of it, admittedly. But right now it's over here because the Christmas tree is actually blocking its normal home. So once Christmas gets, put back away back in the garage, it will be put, back over there, and hopefully it will continue to do well. It did bloom for me over there, so it can't have been all bad. But I actually really like this plant. I really have a thing for spider plants. I don't know why. I think it's because they're one of those plants that I grew up with. My mom always had them around, so I just really like it. It's pretty. I have a variegated version as well, which is not doing too hot. It's still in the north window, which I'm coming to think may be part of the problem. But I also have a bunch of them propagating because my mother-in-law wanted some, or my boyfriend's mother wanted some. So I'm hoping that maybe I can give her a little pot of them soon. This is my Begonia Maculata. It's the kind of spotted begonia. For whatever reason, every time I look at this plant, I think of salmon. I'm not sure why, but I think of salmon every time I look at it. It is up here where it's not particularly happy about. Also, it's getting a little bit leggy. It's lost a lot of the leaves at the bottom. So I probably will need to chop and prop this one soon. Begonias are super easy to propagate though, so I'm really not all that worried. And I know that they do tend to do this kind of as they age, they drop their older leaves. So not all that worried about it. It'll be fine. I mean, it's still putting out new growth for me. I love those little angel wings that it's known for. I just think they're really pretty. I actually picked up at Walmart, as you can tell, it is the Trending Tropicals from Costa Farms. I haven't repotted it. I actually don't believe in repotting perfectly happy plants. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people might think that's sacrilegious, but if I get a brand new plant from, Walmart or a big box store and it's happy, I'm not gonna repot it. Why would I disturb it? So it's been, in this kind of coir, I think it is, coir potting mix, and it's doing fine. So I'm leaving it alone. As long as it's happy, I'm happy. And over here is my other Syngonium. I probably should have cut some of the dead leaves off of this one before I showed it to you, but it is what it is. I kind of tied it up all in the middle, so it really is fuller than it looks, I will say. I have this little halo light up here. Don't ask me if it does anything. Honestly, I don't know. Where I have it is, this is actually an west-facing window. No, east-facing window. This is an east-facing window right here. And then obviously the south-facing window is over here. So it's kind of between two light sources. It gets some light from at least the east-facing window, but I wanted to kind of supplement it with this halo light. Other grow lights I have, you can see, made a pretty big difference in the growth of the plant fairly quickly. This one has not seemed to have done so yet, is how I'm gonna say that. So we're waiting. Hopefully it'll adjust. It's been a few months. Again, I think Syngonium just take a little bit of time to adjust before they, get happy again, especially if they came from maybe a greenhouse, which I do have, but I'm not putting it out there because I want it inside where it's pretty. I think it's nice and colorful. I really do quite like the pink on the leaves. And it actually is doing fairly well. It's putting out a little bit more green in the leaves, which is normal. Usually if there is less lighting, you're gonna get less of that exotic coloration or even variegated coloration. So that's always something to keep in mind when you're placing a plant somewhere. If it has less light than the plant might like, you might lose a little bit of the color, but that's fine with me. I really don't mind. I still think it's pretty, and it will eventually adjust. It actually probably could use some water. And next one here, I need to sit down for because I am getting out of breath. This is a rattlesnake Calathea. Calathea are known for being kind of temperamental, kind of difficult plants. Mine seems to be doing okay. I got it pretty small, and you can see that there's a few dead leaves in there. I really need to be more diligent about trimming my dead leaves. I'm not really great at it, but it is what it is. But I've kind of found for me that the trick to Calathea is making sure that they stay consistently damp. And I'm not saying, you know, keep it soaked all the time. I'm saying make sure that it doesn't dry out. When they dry out, they tend to get really unhappy. They tend to get really crispy and curly for me. I have like a couple little burnt edges where they got a little drier than it would have liked, but for the most part, this plant is actually pretty happy. I'm just looking because I don't pull this plant down all that often. It looks like it is doing okay. It was near one of the spider mite plants, so I'm still keeping an eye on it. I definitely did trade it, but it's doing pretty well. But yeah, so I just never let them dry out. That's kind of my trick to Calathea. I always make sure that they're at least damp. My big Calathea are actually both in self-watering pots. You'll see in a moment. This one's in terracotta, which kind of seems counterintuitive to the keep it damp situation, but I have been able to do so far. It's doing pretty well. I'm kind of waiting for it to get big enough actually to go into a self-watering pot. That way, hopefully I'll get a really nice big rattlesnake Calathea someday soon. I love them. They're so cool looking. All right, and next up on my plant list is this Heartleaf Philodendron. This is kind of my first LECA experiment. I bought LECA. I bought it for, I believe they were peace lilies, some lily variety, because they like to be, you know, in the damp. So I thought, oh, LECA will be perfect. I'll keep that reservoir, you know, nice and full, and they'll be happy. They were not happy. Spoiler alert. So this Heartleaf Philodendron was actually mixed in with my Philodendron Brazil that you'll see later on, and I don't know. I'm really weird about my plants that aren't the same plant being mixed. I know that's not a thing for a lot of people, but for me, it's like the peas touching the carrots and like the mashed potatoes. It drives me nuts. Maybe blame a little bit on OCD. I'll accept that, but I just don't like my different types of plants being mixed together. I don't want them like that. So I pulled this out. I put it in the LECA, and so far so good. These prop super easy in water. So my thought process was, if I put it in the LECA, the roots should be happy, because I even have one living in water right now and it's totally fine. So it's been about a month maybe. It hasn't died off. It seems like it's doing pretty well, so I'm leaving it be. Next up is this Stephanie Erecta. I'm not going to spend too long on this because, as you can see, it is currently just a caudex, which is this bulb right here. I did have, you know, fairly, I guess, medium-sized Stephanie Erecta plant for a little bit. It looked really nice. It's a seasonal plant, so they do tend to die back in the winter anyways. But it got hit with the spider mites. Actually, it was one of the worst ones, I think, other than the Calathea, which just so happened to have been the source of them. Surprise to everyone. But I had a lot of webbing between the lobes, so I just cut it back. It's not going to hurt it. It'll grow back eventually. You just kind of keep watering it, keep treating it like an actual plant, and one day it will put an actual plant back out. Yeah, so that's about all I have to say with that one. Not all that exciting. So this is my other Ficus Elastica. This is the Taneki. I actually bought this at a grocery store. It still looked fine. So I was like, well, I guess I have to take it home now. This is how I rationalize getting new plants, guys. But as you can see, this one is also growing. This is the east facing window over here. If we can focus on the plant, thank you. Has lots of new leaves coming in at most of the plants. There's like maybe 5 plants in here. So it is pretty prolific with its, you know, growth habits, as well as, you know, the normal Ficus Alaska burgundy that I have as well. But I love these leaves. I think there's something so unique and so cool about the variegation pattern on these leaves. They look like somebody took like watercolor and painted watercolor on the leaves, and I just love it. I think they're so pretty. I would recommend you getting one if you don't have one, because it is gorgeous. Next over here we have my little pitcher plant. So this one actually took a little bit of a learning curve for me, I will say. This is actually a self-watering pot and it needs some water right now. It's a little bit empty. But pitcher plants are carnivorous plants, and if you don't know a whole lot about them, they do not like any nutrition in their soil. They want to basically be in the worst soil ever. If you have the most used up terrible soil in your entire collection, they'll probably enjoy it. Mine is in a perlite and sphagnum moss mix. I think I have some bark in there as well, and I keep it in a self-watering pot to keep it moist. In nature, they like to grow in kind of like swampy areas, so I try to replicate that as best I can. It does like a little bit more light actually though. I had it on the shelf over here, the same one as my Philodendron Heartleaf Philodendron over here, and it wasn't getting enough light and it wasn't giving me any new pictures. All the pictures I originally had died off before I found out how, you know, to keep it with the water and the constant moisture and all of that. And I had it in bark, wait no, I had it in soil actually to begin with, and I think that just signed the death warrant on most of those pictures. This is the only picture I have right now, and even the top, you know, is a little bit crispy. It's never opened for me, but it's finally putting out a new little baby picture, and I'm so excited. You know, I got it because I love it. It's the new Penthes St. Gaia variety, so it does get pretty big eventually if I would let the pictures grow, which I am definitely going to. But for now, it's a baby. I really enjoy it, and I will keep you updated when those pictures come in because I am so excited about them. All right, next up we have the aforementioned Silver Sword Philodendron. As you can see, there were some bites taken out of it, so yeah. Supposedly philodendron are supposed to be toxic to pets, which I do believe, don't get me wrong. My dog is very, very smart. Just sometimes she makes bad decisions about what she's going to eat. So she did take a couple of bites. She was absolutely fine. That was obviously my biggest concern, is that she was okay. She was fine. This plant was not. This plant definitely suffered a little bit. It was already so small too. I was so upset. So I ended up getting this second one over here. You can see this second vine going up from the same seller as I got the Philodendron Pothos from. And it's helped it look a little bit more full. This is one of those ones that I was talking about where the pot is actually bigger than the plant needs. However, I do have it in there because of this moss pole. It's a pretty big moss pole. Eventually it will grow up the moss pole and it'll be fine, but I need a pot big enough to fit it. So the pot is maybe a smidge bigger than this plant, or these plants, I guess, really needed at the time. But they'll grow into it. I just am very conscientious whenever I water that the entire thing is dry before I add any more water in there. The Corey is telling me there's people working on the road outside, which, yes, thank you, bud. Anyways, but this moss pole here, I know a lot of people have trouble keeping theirs damp, which I understand because they dry out super quick. I have these really cool poles though. I got it from Amazon. I'll try to link it down below, but it has a full plastic back and then only the front has the like little holes for the plants to grip on. So it is a little bit limited. You can only grow a plant on the front of it. I don't mind that though, because I'd rather see my plants anyways. So unless it gets super big, it's not a big deal. And it keeps it damp longer as well. And I actually use this Coke can. This is not a Coke commercial, but I take the top off the Coke can and I pop a little hole in the bottom, and then I fill this up once every other day or so with water, and it slowly lets the water trickle down through the moss pole. That way it keeps it moist. Otherwise these are a pain in the butt to water because the water just goes right through them, soaks the plant, and then your plant is perpetually moist and your moss pole is still dry. So that's not an ideal situation. This is the best method I found for that. I know some people use plastic cups and stuff like that. That would work fine too. I just have an abundance of Coke cans. My boyfriend goes through them like crazy. So Coke can keeps my moss pole very nice and moist. This is my Philodendron Florida Green Beauty is what it was sold to me as. I think it's really just a green beauty, but it's just so pretty. I love just the leaf shape. I think it's so unique, so cool. You actually can tell I have a few different maturity levels of leaves here. I have like the single kind of lobe situation, and then I have multiples, and then I have, you know, a more mature leaf shape. This was a cutting that I got from actually the same seller as the Australis Lisa. So when I tell you that I trust the seller for the most part, I really do. Like, she sends me nice plants and I really appreciate it. She lives close by to me too, so they don't even spend like more than maybe a day in the mail usually. I try to buy Florida when I can because plants don't really like to be in the mail. They aren't meant to be in the mail, so when you ship a plant from, you know, somewhere up north or for somewhere across the country, there's always going to be a bigger risk. And, you know, I'm willing to take that risk if it's a plant that I really, really want or really, really like, but when I can, I try to buy Florida. So this plant did eventually root for me. So it has this leaf that came out here. As you can see, it's a little deformed, which is again typical of a first new leaf from a cutting. I try to keep my plants from touching right now because of the spider mite debacle. But yeah, it's typical when a cutting puts out a first leaf that it's going to be a little bit oddly shaped, just because, you know, that leaf was developing while there was an immature root system, maybe less water than the plant wanted, maybe less nutrients than the plant wanted. So it's going to be a little weird. Also, it took a while to unfurl because it was kind of actually trapped up with this. I don't think I have any pictures, but it was weird looking for a little while. But it has a new growth point coming in. I'm very excited to see, you know, how big I can grow this plant because I know they grow pretty quick too. And here is my favorite ficus right now. Don't tell anyone else. All the other ficus might be jealous, but I don't care because look at how gorgeous this plant is. I just, wow. Yeah, I saw Ficus triangularis, which is what this is. This is the Ficus triangularis Variegated. I saw it for the first time on Really Big Plant, her YouTube channel, which one of my favorite channels. I really love her and her content. I think she's fantastic, really funny, very knowledgeable. I really enjoy watching her videos. But she had a really, really big Ficus triangularis, and I mean, look how unique that leaf shape is. That's what captured my attention, is how unique the leaves shape, or the leaves are shaped. And I don't know, I just got kind of drawn in by this plant. And then when I found out there was a variegated version, I had to have it. So I did go ahead and pick one up. It's grown a little bit for me, not a whole lot. Partially my fault, I will say. This one is particularly sensitive about underwatering. If you do not water this plant when it wants to be watered, and I'm talking the exact date and time, it will drop leaves. And I actually had this plant drop most of its leaves for me probably a few months back. And as you can see, I mean, it grew back, no issue. Even like the bare stems put out new leaves and are still putting out new leaves. So it's not a huge deal. Though I was kind of devastated at the time because this is one of my favorite plants. I just really love the look. I love the leaves. I think it's so pretty. I don't know why it's doing this though. Some of them have like these little weird brown edges. I don't know why. If anybody knows, feel free to let me know. Leave it in the comments below. I'd love to find out. But yeah, I really love this plant. Mine shipped really, really well. I know these actually have like a reputation for shipping very badly, but I got mine on Etsy and it shipped super well. Got here, you know, pretty quickly, and thus far, as long as I water it on time, gives me very little trouble. Okay, and we have made it to the big Calathea. This is my Medallion Calathea. I think it's called the Peacock Medallion. It has gorgeous purple backs. I really do enjoy this plant. However, thus far, I have had a lot of trouble with this plant. It started with it pretty much almost dying all the way back, actually. All the leaves pretty much fell off, got crispy. And this plant is known for its crispy edges, for being a little bit difficult to kind of maintain perfect leaves. Again, in all fairness, some of that is because of the spider mite treatment. This was the source of the spider mite outbreak, from what I can tell. And you can see like a little bit of spider mite damage on the leaves. Spider mites are plant pests that actually kind of almost like leeches or ticks for humans. They kind of attach to the plant and suck out all the nutrients from the cells, and that's what leaves that spotting. So it's a very distinctive thing. Unfortunately, I didn't notice it for a little while. When I got to the point where I did notice it, it had spread to a lot of other plants. and it was very sad. So I had to, you know, take some quick action to try to prevent any deaths in my collection from the spider mites. But this one is also in a self-watering pot. Like I said, it had a lot of issues with not even really drying out. It just wasn't maintaining moisture in the way that this plant seemed to want. So as kind of a last ditch effort, I placed it in the self-watering pot to try to keep that moisture more consistent. And thus far, it has loved it. It seems much happier in this pot. It actually got to the point where it was so happy that I think that's when the spider mites decided that they needed to attack to try to even the score. Because it was putting out new leaves left and right. Like, it had those beautiful little rolled up, you know, newspaper type leaves coming in, and then the spider mites hit. So it's recovering slowly. It will get there eventually though. I'm not all that worried about it. All the big leaves pretty much got killed off by the spider mites. So we're all back to, you know, that small bushy kind of growth that they get when they're younger, but it'll grow back. It's not all that big a deal as long as, you know, it's pest free, hopefully for now, fingers crossed, it should be fine. And then back here is actually another Calathea. This is the Calathia Mosaic, I believe. Usually I have a tag. I don't think I've made a tag for this one yet. But this one I got also at a big box store, this one, because I just love the leaves. I love the markings. I think it looks almost like reptilian. It looks almost scaled, which is so cool. I just, like, how unique is that? This one's also in a self-watering pot. As you can see, I have all of the new leaves coming in, which I'm hoping isn't going to jinx me with spider mites again, because this is still a Calathea. Calathea are known for being spider mite magnets, right up there with alocasia. So fingers crossed on that. But I do really enjoy this plant. I really enjoy the leaves. I just think it's really gorgeous. It's really nice and big and bushy and full right now. So hopefully it maintains that growth and it looks pretty for a long time for me. And we are moving on to this corner over here. I apologize, I'm right next to the dog door, and the dogs have decided that they obviously need to come in and out and in and out and in and out since I'm standing right here with my video going. So it is what it is. But over here in this little corner right here, I kind of have this seasonal-ish setup. I have it set up this way because the Christmas tree is currently blocking where some of these plants currently live. I'm sitting down on the floor because getting short of breath today. But yeah, so the Christmas tree is currently blocking where some of these plants currently live. So I needed somewhere to put them. I have grow lights underneath these shelves that, you know, are really great actually. I didn't know how well they would do, but as soon as I got them installed, the plants seemed to start growing really well. So they really seem to enjoy it. And this has, you know, enough off light from those lights that I think, you know, the plants are reasonably happy here. This is a Schefflera, you know, very common kind of umbrella leaves. Pardon all of the weird spots on the leaves. That's honestly pest treatments and neem oil, and it needs to be sprayed off, but it is what it is right now. Where I think I got it from a plant that my mom used to have, and it put off a pup, and I have no idea how I got a hold of the pup, to be quite honest with you, but I did. And it's here. I really love plants that I get from my mom or from, you know, my gram. My gram actually recently passed this past week, and I'm very emotional about it, but I have a lot of plants from my gram. So it's really nice to have plants from family members and, you know, loved ones. They have a lot of meaning, and I just think that it's a really great way to have a piece of them with you. So I'm very, very careful about the plants that came from family for me. I love this little Schefflera. I think it's really cool looking. It's another one that Luna decided to munch on a little bit. So if you see any missing leaves, that is what happened. But she hasn't messed with it since it's come over here. So it seems to be pretty good. This is a little corn plant. I believe it's a Dracaena, I believe is the genus that it belongs to. Dracaena, you know, are pretty hardy. This one, I water when I remember to. It's kind of bad, honestly. But this plant does not seem to care at all. It's maybe lost maybe a couple of leaves since I got it. And obviously it's put out, a few more. So it's happy. It takes up, nice space. It has a lot of, pretty green variation on the leaves, which I enjoy. So I like it. I like having it here. I think it's, a really great basic plant. It does like a good deal of light, so I couldn't put it back in like a north window, which is where I did have it at one point. It was not happy there. So just make sure if you do have one of these, you have it in enough light and it will pretty much be indestructible, as I say, question mark. And this is a little Sansevieria, and actually by little, I guess I should actually say giants, because yeah, that shelf is like 6 feet tall, I think, and it is on a little stand that's maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet tall. But yeah, this snake plant is really, really going for it. It's going for the height award, which I'm not upset about at all. I like plants that take up, a lot of height space rather than, spread out space. I like that it's very structural, it's very pretty. It's a great basic plant to have, so I definitely enjoy having it here. Then over here, these are the couple of plant shelves. I've kind of set aside the space for Hoyas. I have some orchids and some cacti over here, Euphorbia as well, that are probably going to move out to the greenhouse pretty soon. I've just kind of been keeping them inside while it's cooler outside, and by cooler I mean we had 2 freezing days so far this year, and that's about as much as Florida tends to get, so I guess I could put them outside pretty soon, but I've just been keeping them here. This is one of the little orchid varieties. I don't remember the name of them, I'm not gonna lie. It's the Oncidium, I guess is what it's called. This is one of the ones that came in that little variety pack. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, honestly. It hasn't grown or done anything for me. I try to keep it, watered. It does always tend to look a little bit underwatered. Usually, oh wait, hold on, never mind. It has a new root coming in. Okay, I'm less concerned. I was worried for a little bit. I was gonna say, usually I'm really good with the orchids. Though to be fair, the orchids that I have, I usually leave outside and kind of don't mess with all that much. I tend to put them underneath trees and baskets and they're really happy. But I just kind of wanted a couple of orchids. So I did pick this one up, and yeah, apparently it's a little bit happier than I thought it was now that it's underneath some light, which is great. This one actually is the same deal. I thought this was going to be an orchid spike at first, so I'm kind of disappointed. I thought it was going to bloom for me. It's not, but it is putting out a new root, so I guess I can't be all that upset. This is a Beta Carmela crossed with a Princess Mikasa, and hasn't done a whole lot. I had actually Chris 3D print these planters for me, which I think is kind of cool. So, they're happy in there. It's doing okay, just not doing much. This is a little cutting that I got. I'll kind of turn it so you can see. It was unidentified. I think it's a pubicalyx or a pubicalyx. I am really bad at pronouncing that one, but it's a Hoya. Yeah, I have another pubicalyx you'll see in a second, but it's very much more green than my current one, which kind of leaves me a little bit in doubt. It is a splash variety, so you can kind of see the splashiness on the leaves. But I have it rooting in here, and so far so good. Can't complain. I think it's pretty cool looking, so we'll see eventually what it ends up doing. This up here is a little Hoya serpens. It's a single node cut. I think you guys probably saw me unbox this one. I really am very excited about this one. I've seen some really beautiful big serpens. I know that mine will probably take forever to get there, but for now I'm just excited to see it grow, see it root. So it's in here to keep that humidity high and keep the moss moist and hopefully grow me a little serpens plant eventually. This is the cuttings of the Hoya Australis Lisa. Like I said, they are not super happy. You can kind of see how wrinkly and angry they look because they have no roots, and they have not had any roots in months. Even though I'm trying to root them in moss, it has been recommended to me to grow or to try to root Hoya in a moss, like a sphagnum moss mix with a reservoir kind of on the bottom, either perlite or leca. This one has a leca reservoir. It really doesn't make all that much difference if you use leca or perlite for the reservoir, but it's the moss that needs to stay moist but not wet that seems to be the main factor. However, it has not yet worked for these. I tried water first. Water was a no-go. They hated it. One of them actually rotted out. I had one other cutting completely rotted out. So I wouldn't say water was the way to go. They are still alive is really all I can say about them right now. So there's that. This is my monkey tail cactus, which I think is just too cool. I really love trailing cacti or trailing succulents, the ones that like you can get a really big basket of, which I know is going to take so long. I did originally have 2 pieces of this one, and actually the first one rotted out. I'm not sure why. So we're kind of just seeing what happens. I did, I think, manage to save a piece of it. So that one is rooting outside. But this one seems pretty happy. It's grown a ton since I've gotten it, actually. I'm waiting for it to start trailing and maybe put out a few branches before I try to cut and prop it a little bit, just to see what happens. Next to it, we have a holiday cactus. I believe this is a Christmas cactus. Sorry about the corgi. The Christmas cactus is the most common of the holiday cacti. You can find it, you know, around the holidays in pretty much any store. This one, I believe, blooms red or really deep pink. All the blooms are now gone, so I'm not really sure. And I think it was red, but I'm not positive. You can use a little bit of water from what I'm seeing over here. You can see when the leaves get wrinkly that it's kind of asking for some water. But yeah, it seems to be pretty happy here. I can't complain. I just think it's a really nice staple plant to have. Kind of cool. Up here we have most of my Hoya collection. These are some cuttings that I got from various people, various sellers, various people who were actually kind enough to send them to me as well, which I really appreciate. Honestly, the plant community is so generous and so kind, and that is one of my favorite things about this community, if I'm being honest. Yeah, there's just some really cool plants in here. This one is a Bertonier, I think it was. Yeah, Bertonier. It's kind of difficult to see the leaves properly because of the way that it's rooting. There we go. So the leaves are, there we go, kind of dark rimmed. They're super soft. And I think this part was actually trailing downwards, which is why the leaves are kind of upside down. But I have it rooting. I'm really hopeful because it's super cute. I really like it. It's definitely one that I don't have. I had maybe like a couple common ones to start with, like the Crimson Queen, stuff like that. But yeah, it's super cute. I really like it. I also got from the same person, I think you guys saw me unbox these actually, the Wyetii variegated version. And that one came with a little bit of roots. I probably would let it, or want to let it root for a little bit more before I try to mess with it, just because I don't want to move it to soil too early and then have, you know, die off. So I'm just kind of letting it root in there. So far, it seems pretty happy. So I'm happy about that. This one is a Matilde Splash. It's the little coin-shaped Hoya with like a little bit of venation. Super cute, little soft, not super soft, but just really cute little Hoya. I don't think it had any leaves when I got, or not any leaves, any roots when I got it. So we're still waiting, you know, for that one to pop some roots, but it hasn't been very long, so it can take a little bit of time for those to root, so I'm not all that worried. Back here is a more mature version of the Hoya pubicalyx or pubicalyx. Yeah, I mean, I guess I really said all that I can say about it. This one is more splashy than the other and obviously less lime green, but it's really cool. I really enjoy it. I made that little like copper trellis out of some copper craft wire, and it's growing. It's putting out new leaves for me, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, we're just kind of waiting and seeing at this point, and hopefully I'll have a nice big size pubicalyx soon. Next to it is a variegated obovata splash, which I really need to repot. I'm not gonna lie. It has tons of roots, if I can show you guys. yeah, tons of roots that have been growing. I just haven't repotted it because I'm actually kind of nervous to do that. It put out these 2 leaves in my care. So, you know, it has established itself enough to actually put out leaves, which probably even more tells me that it is time to pot it up. If anyone wants to leave me encouragement on doing that below, I will not be upset because I probably need a little bit of encouragement to do so. But yeah, I really love this plant. I think it's so cute. I love how big the leaves are. It makes it look like a bigger plant even though it's fairly small. Yeah, I just think it's really cool. This is a cutting of a Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. And, you know, it's a very common plant. Is this Splash? I think that's Splash. Yeah, that's splashing on it, on the leaves. It's a very common plant. It's one of those ones that people really enjoy, tend to get really big baskets of. This one was sent to me as a cutting. I do have another one, which is a decent size. It looks a little bit different though, so I'm kind of wondering, you know, maybe if I have 2 different varieties, like one's a splash and one isn't, or what. But you'll see that one in a little while. But yeah, I just think this one's super cute. I really like it. I love rooting in these like little shot glasses just because they have, you know, a good amount of space for, you know, the perlite and the moss layer. Pardon me, but not too much, so they, you know, hold them up pretty well. All right, and this one is another little Hoya. Actually, it's 2 Hoya in this little kind of like brandy style glass. This is a Hoya retusa, which I think is just really cool. It was sent to me again by a very generous person through a wish list type post. I think it is really nifty though. It's put out a little bit of new growth for me. It's kind of hard to tell because it is kind of everywhere. I'm not gonna lie, it's an everywhere type of plant, type of Hoya, but it's rooting, it seems to be pretty happy. I'm happy as long as it's happy. And then we have over here a Hoya Chelsea, which is kind of, again, hard to see because I think this was a trailing part, so it was facing downwards. This one actually is rooted though. I probably could, if you can see the little roots in there, probably could pot this one up by now. But again, I'm worried about this one. If I pot it, what happens if I pot it up and then the roots get mad? Or what happens if I pot it up and there's not enough roots? Or, you know, just kind of plant parent worries about this little plant because I think it's so cute. I would hate to lose it. So again, guys, leave me some encouragement below to repot these little Hoyas that need to be potted. Over here is a Dendrobium orchid. Again, this one came from the little like mystery box that I had with all the little babies. Chris also 3D printed me this pot, which I'm really, you know, very happy with. They do really well with these orchids. They have drainage in the bottom. They have a little kind of saucer that they come with. And yeah, the orchids seem to quite enjoy them. Again, we'll probably put this one outside into the greenhouse just because right now it's taking up some kind of valuable shelf space. And that I will probably need when I do end up potting up these Hoyas. That way it has enough space to actually, you know, give them all light and space on the shelf. But I think it'll be happier outside anyways. Probably use some humidity, so not really all that big a deal. This is my Euphorbia ghost. It's not a cacti, it actually is a Euphorbia. I know the label says cactus from the place that I got it from, but it's very similar to a cactus. If I remember correctly, I think they tend to be a little bit more thirsty. This was kind of a water when dry or every few weeks kind of situation. The larger version was the one you saw earlier. So very similar and kind of growing pattern. It's just white. It's also known as like the bone euphorbia. You know, people see it a lot. That, you know, just kind of looks creepy when they're fully grown, but I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. I really enjoy having it in my collection, even though it hasn't done a whole lot for me so far. Again, in this plant's defense, it was knocked over because it was out on my front porch. It was knocked over by a couple of strong winds, so probably didn't enjoy getting knocked around. I will take credit for that one, but eventually it will grow up and it'll be, you know, a bigger version of the Euphorbia that you see in front of you. It'll be really cool. I'm excited. So I'm not going to spend too long over here. This is another snake plant, another Dracaena. This one is kind of my low light Dracaena right now. I kind of rotate through them to try to give them all like the best chance of success. It's still pretty happy. I mean, wait, not a Dracaena. It's a Sansevieria. Apologies. It's a Sansevieria. So you know, they're really hardy plants. They're kind of hard to kill. They're kind of hard to even not give enough light to. That's not to say that they will grow in any lights, but they'll at least kind of maintain themselves in any light. This one, I was pretty happy here for a little while. I just really like the variegation on it, the yellow edges. I think it's quite pretty, and it takes up this little corner nicely. And then up here, again, very low light. This is a little pothos cutting. I just really like having a plant here. I probably could put like a fake plant there, but it's a pothos, so it's not like it's going to be terribly upset. It gets a little bit of light from the front door. That is a north-facing door. It does have an overhang, so when I say a little bit of light, I mean very, very little light. But I mean, it's doing fine. It's not all that upset. I did have a fern here at one point. The fern also did fine until I underwatered it, and that was my bad. But right now, this is what's here. It's cute. I like it, and it's doing just fine. All right, and this is the north-facing window where I said that the spider plants usually live. So this one is my variegated spider plant. Looks a little sad. I think it probably actually could do with maybe a little bit more light and definitely a little bit more water. It's been through a lot, honestly. I potted it up, and the pot that I put it into is really deep, and there was a couple other ones that died off, and I feel like it had something to do with overwatering. These plants actually seem pretty easy to overwater, so, you know, I know they're supposed to be pretty easy care. They do better on neglect, I would say. Not saying that neglecting your plants is a good idea. If they die, do not blame me, but that is what we're working with. So yeah, this one's doing fine. I have a few little cuttings that I will probably pot in there. Then, you know, probably keep a couple. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not really sure right now, but I like it. This is a Kalanchoe. I think is how you pronounce that. It's super soft. The leaves feel really, really nice, kind of cool. In general, I don't really like Kalanchoe. No offense. This one is more of a succulent look to it than like the ones that bloom, like you find in grocery stores, like Publix or Aldi's, things like that. So this one looks more like a succulent, so I like it a little bit better. But yeah, it just kind of sits here. This one actually survived in super low light for years and years and years, which is why it kind of has a deformed growth to it. And I've just kind of let it go here. Like I said, because it adapted to that low light, it seems to be doing fine in this low light. This is a north-facing window again, so it's not really the ideal for plants that like a lot of light, but it seems fairly happy. I mean, it's not super happy. This is a little bit of a crispy leaf, I think. Yeah, that's a crispy leaf, but yeah. Don't have a lot to say about it. They're kind of nifty. They take up space. And this is a ponytail palm. This one is super bushy, pretty small still. You know, living in Florida, like I said, I see a lot of really, really huge ones. I think that they were kind of big in landscaping in like the 90s, maybe 80s, 90s, when some of these houses down here were built. And they are taller than me and like thicker around than I could wrap my arms around. So they're really, really, really big. This one, by comparison, is quite small. I've had it for, you know, maybe 9 months or so. I got it at Walmart. It's a pretty common plant, so it's not one that I'm super like fussed over. Like if it did die, I'd probably just go get another one. But it seems really happy right now. It could probably do with a little bit more light because again, north-facing window, palm tree, not the best. They do live in full sun down here too, guys. They do live in full sun down here, but it seems happy for now. And the dogs are just kind of following me from room to room. So if you continue to hear barking, I apologize. But this is the bathroom. This is the second bathroom. So this is kind of the hospital type place for my plants. If I see anything that's not doing super well or that could use more humidity, I pop it in here. Also gets a fair bit of light. I mean, this is a south facing window, but it is filtered. So it's a little bit reduction there, but still, you know, fairly good light. I guess I'll start over here. Up here, I have a Prince of Orange philodendron. This is actually the one I was talking about that had that death plug in it. So it did have, you know, kind of a chokehold on the plant's leaves, which is not ideal, of course, for any plant, or not the leaves, I'm so sorry, for the roots. But it had a chokehold on the plant's roots, so it could not grow. I mean, if you see these have been wrapped up like this for, I couldn't even tell you how many months. This is the first leaf that this plant has put out in the entire time I've had it, probably. It also had a little bit of rust fungus spots, which has been treated, so it should be, you know, recovering from that as well. All in all, this poor plant really just needed some help. So this one had 0 roots actually when I took it out of the pot eventually. This one had some roots, so this one's in soil, this one's in perlite, and they're doing okay. Like, they're not doing great, they're not doing awful, they're just living. And hopefully one day they will grow nice and big for me, but for now this is what we're at. This one is actually not mine. This is the Philodendron White Princess that I got for you guys. This was the one you watched me unbox in that giveaway. It has a new leaf coming out. It has a few plants in here actually, but it's super cute. Obviously the giveaway is still going, so if you see this and you haven't entered, go ahead and enter it. I believe it closes on the 8th, yeah, January 8th, so you still have a little under a week to go enter. So go check out my Instagram if you'd like to do that. This is my painted lady. I really kind of love this plant, honestly. It's just so pretty. I know the lighting in here isn't ideal, but it's still just a really gorgeous plant. I was, again, inspired by a wild fern to pick this one up. I saw hers and it is huge and gorgeous and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to get one for myself as well. It's been a pretty consistent grower, though the leaves have kind of reduced in size. I might need more light, honestly, but because like I said, this is, you know, fairly filtered light, but so far so good. This is a little pot of cuttings from my Million Hearts plant. That would be my Dischidia riscifolia. You'll see the whole plant later, but I've been trying to kind of root some. Mine is currently living in moss and bark, because that's what I actually found it liked best. But I would like to see if it would grow in soil. So I'm trying to root some off, see what happens. You never know. This is a little Philodendron Birkin, which I say kind of lovingly with a giggle, because as you can see, there is no white variegation on this plant. I know sometimes they take a while to develop white variegation, like the plants have to be adults before they become variegated. So obviously we're still waiting, but I actually don't mind the little green leaves. I think they're super cute. I got this one as a baby and it has a ton of little plants in here. So I'm just kind of keeping a close eye on it. I think it was like a plug when I got it, so it was pretty small. And it's grown a good deal. Like, I'm not gonna say it hasn't, but it's obviously still a pretty small plant. But I enjoy it, I like it. This is my Philodendron Black Cardinal. This one actually developed some rust too. I'm not really sure what happened there, quite honestly. I think it must have come that way because I didn't have it anywhere that was super humid or super like stagnant air, which is typically what produces this. So yeah, I don't know, I've treated it, and as you can see, like the newer leaves have less spotting and they're coming in pretty clear. I really like this plant though. Again, the dogs follow me, but I'm very excited to see kind of what comes of this plant and see how large I can get it. I've seen some really, really gorgeous black cardinals, and I don't know, I really like watching plants grow, but I do also really like plants when they're big, so it's kind of a personal challenge to see what happens there. This is my Philodendron biliatiae. I think that was actually against the window, so it got a little deformed, which I'm really disappointed about. Gosh dang it, I wish I'd noticed that before. Anyways, but this one came also as like a little plug. It came as a baby, so it, you know, was very small, had little tiny leaves. I really wanted a big one. I kind of have since learned that if you want a larger plant faster, to go with a cutting. Cuttings of Biliatias, in my experience or my knowledge, are not super expensive, so I probably could have gone for that and it would have turned out maybe a little bit better or a little bit bigger. But right now, this is what we're setting with. I don't mind it. I think it's still really cute. I'm really upset about that leaf, but other than that, you know, it's really cute. It'll be nice and big one day, just not today. It'll be taking a while. Anyways, I had to move him over there. But this is my Philodendron Red Sun. This is another one that taught me the valuable lesson of if philodendron leaves are not opening, something is wrong. This one is in a no drainage pot. These are little no drainage pots that I like to put like little starter plants in. Definitely have to be careful though. This one, I'm not really sure what ended up happening. I don't know. Maybe if it got a little dry because I was underwatering it, an attempt to not overwater it. But it ended up with no roots, so I don't know what really happened there. I did pop it back in here, put it in here with more humidity, and it is much happier. I will say it has put out so many new leaves. That newest leaf is obviously really pretty. Yeah, I just really like this plant. Obviously it's still really small, but I think it's really cute and really pretty, and one day it will be a nice big plant for me with beautiful red leaves. And popping that back there. This is my other Philodendron Crimson, or not Philodendron, Hoya Crimson Queen. You know, I always used to laugh when people would, you know, have these videos and then they would say Philodendron instead of Hoya, because I'm like, oh, how do you confuse those two? I'm starting to understand. This is a very long video for me to film and talk for this long, so anyone I ever laughed at, I apologize. But this is my Hoya Crimson Queen. This is the larger version that I have, or the larger plant that I have of it. Obviously the other one is still cutting. Yeah, I mean, it's really cute. I quite like it. I have it hanging because I want it to be a hanging plant one day. It really hasn't done all that much for me, which might be up to a lack of light. I did move it a little bit closer to this south-facing window to see maybe if it could get a little bit more light and get a little bit bigger. Thus far, not really a whole lot, but I also know Hoya are slow growers, so it may just take some time. But I do really like it. I think it's cute, and the little spots you see all over are sulfur, but yeah, it's adorable. I would recommend one if you want like a cute little variegated Hoya. This is my Black Pagoda lipstick plant. I really like it. I have kind of gotten into lipstick plants at the same time I got into Hoya. I think it was because you know, they're pretty similar. They have similar care requirements, but lipstick plants are easier to find. There is less variety of them from what I can tell, but just, I mean, like, look at these leaves. Like, these leaves are so cool. The backs are so cool. It's just a really pretty plant. It's really gorgeous. It seems to be doing really well here. I have it potted, you know, in soil in a little plastic pot. So it does, you know, dry out a little bit faster than maybe some of my other plants do. But yeah, it's really cute. I'm kind of wondering if those are new leaves or if those are blooms. I guess we'll kind of see as time goes on, or maybe I could actually just look. Let me see. I don't know, they kind of look like blooms to me. I haven't had this plant bloom for me before. I've only had it for a few months, so it could be blooms. If it is, I will be very excited, and you guys will definitely see Instagram posts from me with these blooms in there. But super cute plant. I really like it. Definitely recommend it to anyone who's looking for something a little bit different. Okay, and the dogs have followed me into yet another room. So again, the barking will continue. This is my pothos wall. I think you guys have probably heard me mention my pothos wall a couple of times. These are little grow lights that I have. They are a little noisy. This one, the fan kind of seems to be a little unbalanced in, so it makes that rattly sound if you can hear it. Sometimes it's louder, sometimes it's quieter. It is in my bedroom, so not the best, but it really, you know, has, there it goes. But it has really nice light, definitely providing a lot of light to my pothos, and they're growing like crazy because of it, so I really can't complain all that much. But starting over here, this is my golden pothos. You guys have seen this in my first houseplants video. Super common plant, you know, you can find it pretty much any garden store. Right now, it does have mealybugs, if you can see them on there, which I am kind of baffled by, honestly. I have no idea where the heck these things came from, but here we are. So we're treating them on this plant and a couple of other ones on this wall. Mealybugs are just kind of an everyday fact of having plants at this point. So yeah, it's always worth it to have some good insecticidal soap, or like Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. That way when you do have them, you can treat them pretty quickly and they don't get out of hand, because they do spread, they crawl, they don't, I believe they actually do fly. The mature ones, I think they fly when they get really big, I think I've heard, but yeah, they're mostly crawlers. They'll crawl from plant to plant, and this one is touching, so I just assume this one also has mealybugs. But this is my Philodendron Brazil, and this one's super pretty. I really love the striping that it has on the leaves. Dogs. This one is a really common plant you can get at pretty much any, big box store. But it's really pretty. It's, doing really well. It really likes having the grow lights on it finally, I think. But it's super just low maintenance, honestly. I water it maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, and it has been growing like crazy. So if you don't have one, it's a great staple plant. Definitely recommend it. Over here is my Baltic Blue Pothos. This is a very, very full plant. The plant's kind of getting, a little out of control over here with all of its typical vines that these types of plants get, but I really enjoy it. I really love the growth pattern. This one will get fenestrated like this when it gets mature. This one did come from a big box store, and this is the one where I learned the lesson of, hey, check your plants when they come home from those stores for mealybugs, because this one had mealybugs when it came home like 6 months ago maybe. I got rid of them completely. I did recently find some more on there, which I think was from this culprit right here. So again, you live and you learn. I'm currently treating this one as well for mealybugs. Not a huge deal. Mealybugs are kind of just, annoying pests rather than destroying pests, but yeah, it's doing okay. I really quite like this plant though. It has really, really long petioles for pothos, I will say. So tends to take up a lot of vertical space. Probably could do with being, one of the plants on the top, but I have the plants on the top that I have for a reason. I'm looking to get those plants some growth, or because they have variegation that I'm looking to maintain. So it is what it is. It's pretty. It will get nice and long and traily for me soon, hopefully. And it's just a really pretty addition to my pothos wall. Up here is my Pearls and Jade pothos. Is that what it is? The Pearls and Jade? Yeah, Pearls and Jade. I tend to get confused between the Pearls and Jade and the Enjoy. Let me just actually pull this one down for you guys. It's really bright me looking up there. This is my Pearls and Jade. It is really pretty. I actually wanted one of these for a really long time, just because they're a little different. I mean, obviously you have your golden pothos that has, its typical variegation, but this one is just kind of unique as far as pothos goes. So I really wanted one of these, and I did end up picking one up, and it's actually, pardon me, I got it before I put the grow lights on the wall. So I will say it definitely likes a little bit more light. It was actually not doing so great until I put the lights up, and now it is growing like crazy. Actually, we're to the point where we're almost trailing, which I'm super excited about. So it will continue growing. It's in like the prime light spot on the wall for that reason, because I want it to grow really fast. Not that I'm impatient or anything, but this whole wall pretty much gets watered about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, and it's pretty happy there. So Pearls and Jade, and then I have my Neon Pothos. There's a lemon lime philodendron and Neon Pothos. I got the Neon Pothos because I like how bright green it is. Yeah, I mean, there's not really any other reason I picked it over the lemon lime. It's just a little bit brighter green, I feel, than the lemon lime is, but it's really cool, really pretty. I love the color and the leaf shape. I just think it's really unique, and it adds a really cool different texture, different color to this pothos wall right here that I have. Then this is also another little addition I have. It's my Scindapsus. I believe it's my Scindapsus pictus. It's the most common one, whatever that is. I actually, wait, hold on. Oh yeah, Scindapsus pictus. There we go. Have my little label there. But it's really cute. I really like it. It has little silvery splotches, which actually kind of sparkle if you catch them in the right light. So that's really nice. This pot is a little bit too large for this plant again. So this is one that I'm really conscious of the watering on. I don't water it until it's showing me that it's thirsty, which it will do by like curling in the leaves and kind of looking a little wilty. But I don't want to overwater it, because if I do overwater it, it might get root rot, and then I would have to grow these from cuttings all over again, which would be very sad for me. And I don't want to do. I want it to get nice and big and trailing, which it is starting to do. I don't know if this is too much light for it, to be quite honest with you. I had it in a place with lower light before, and I felt like it was doing better, but I'm probably not going to move it, because as long as it is growing, you know, it's doing its thing. I'm gonna leave it, but the leaves kind of have gotten smaller. So yeah, little leaves, big leaves. This is an older leaf. It's not happy. I think when I replanted it, I buried the original leaves a little bit deeper than they were before, which is something that you have to be conscious of when repotting. So they are now deeper below the soil line, and they don't like that kind of change, so they will drop the older leaves. So yeah, it's getting like a little bit yellowy in certain spots, but that's not a really huge deal. The new leaves are looking just fine. So as long as the new leaves are happy, I'm happy. And if it gets really long and traily, I'll be even happier. Plants. This one is another one of my Sansevierias that has that really pretty variegation. It makes a really nice plant in this corner here. Doesn't really get a whole lot of attention or a whole lot of light, but it's pretty happy, and it just looks really nice right here, so I can't complain either. This is another little plant that I just kind of have here to take up some space. It's on the shelf, which is a little dusty. I'm kind of embarrassed about that, but it's fine. Little heartleaf philodendron. Again, I have multiple of these. It is just the non-variegated form of the Philodendron Brazil. If you do not give the Brazil enough light, it will revert to a heartleaf philodendron, which is how I actually got this plant in the first place. So I have a bunch of them. You know, they're pretty, they're cool. They're a nice little viney plant. It takes up this spot on the shelf really nicely. It is growing solely in water and has been for months, and it is perfectly happy. I change the water when I remember to, and obviously like it's not getting quite enough light because the leaves are getting smaller and smaller, but I'm really not all that worried. You know, I'm not super invested in growing this plant big. I just like it there, and as long as it is there and it's alive, that's doing its job. So there's that. This is my Monstera deliciosa, very common house plant. You can pretty much see them in any big box store, anywhere. I mean, even Publix carries these. I have it facing the window, so you're kind of seeing the ugly side. I'm sorry. I did decorate it for Christmas, so you can see some of the ornaments. But yeah, it's just a really cool plant. I really like the leaves. I like how, you know, green it is. It's tall. It's up on this trellis, so it makes it, you know, very nice and kind of compact. Otherwise it sprawls out almost unmanageably, but it takes up, you know, a good amount of space, and just looks really nice right here in this corner. I do plan to move it to where the corn plant was earlier, after the holiday season is over and I put everything kind of back where it usually goes over, so you can see a little bit better. I do have a couple of new leaves coming in. I repotted it recently, so it was kind of stalled out for a little while, which is totally normal when you repot a plant that it stalls out like that. But yeah, it's just a really cool houseplant. I really like it. I enjoy it. I recommend you get one if you don't have one. They're not super difficult to take care of, and they take up, you know, a good chunk of space if you're looking for like a nice floor plant. This is my Dischidia riscifolia. This is the Million Hearts plant, not the String of Hearts, but the Million Hearts. And this one was a gift from, you know, somebody I was friends with a while ago. We really don't talk anymore, which is kind of sad, because when I look at plants like this, I remember, you know, friendships that I used to have, but it's also nice because it's a good memory that you have with somebody, you know. This one is the one that I have growing in that moss bark mix in this kind of orchid pot actually. And it's super happy. I mean, it's growing really well. When I moved, I had it in too low a light location, so it did kind of get a little bit sparse and weird looking. But now that it has more light, it's pretty happy. So I will just say, if you have these, give them a, you know, a decent amount of light. This is an east facing window, and it gets, you know, pretty much sun, or at least light all day long, if not direct sun. And it, you know, has grown a good bit for me. You can kind of see here all the new vines. It's just a really cute plant, honestly. I really enjoy it. And over here is my string of bananas. This plant has been through quite a lot. It got to me as a cutting, so I rooted it, and then I left it in very dry moss for a long time, and it's still fine. This plant is kind of a marvel to me. It's very sturdy, very durable plant, funny enough, because I know the string ofs tend to be a little bit more difficult for a lot of people. But this one is doing fine for me. I have it just kind of chilling in this window in a moss mix still with a little bit of soil. Actually, I did mix some soil in there. And it's happy. It's growing, so I'm going to leave it alone. As long as it's doing its thing and it's happy, I can't complain. Over here is my last house plant that I have to show you guys. This is my little devil's backbone Euphorbia. This is the last Euphorbia in my collection, I believe, right now. It is pretty cool. Actually, it's very, you know, unique plant with its growth pattern. As you can see, like over there, the zigzag is kind of where it gets its, right over here, the zigzag is where it gets its devil's backbone name, because it's the crooked backbone. But it's really cool. The leaves are a little bit variegated. This one I did get from clippings from my Graham's plant, you know, a few months ago. I did go ahead and root it up. It rooted pretty easily for me without much trouble, and it has been putting out new shoots and leaves pretty much ever since. It does like a good amount of light, so I will say having it in this window has been what it prefers from the other locations that I've had it. I eventually will probably have to move it elsewhere because it's going to get a little bit taller than I think this window will allow. But it's really cute. It's really, you know, a very nice plant. It's pretty cool. You don't see plants that grow like this all that often, so I really enjoy having it. And if you do see one, definitely pick it up. I would just say though, be careful if you do clip it to try to prop it. The sap of this plant is a little bit toxic, can cause some skin irritation, so just be careful. But just really cute, really nice plant, and it looks really cute in this windowsill here.
All right, and guys, that is it for my first houseplant tour. I really hope you enjoyed. Like I said, I do have quite a few more plants there just outside, mostly because they can't fit inside, or they're, you know, just not meant to be indoors plants. But the ones that I do have in here, I really enjoy, I really love, and I hope you guys really enjoyed getting to see them and how I keep them. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and leave them down below. I would love if you guys liked, shared, commented the video, and went ahead and subscribed to my channel. I do release new videos weekly, so there will be some more upcoming content for you shortly. Bye, have a great day.